Uh-oh.
In her last two fights. Good way hitting him.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. It appears that Alicia Baumgardner is no longer suspended. The Association of Boxing Commissions, the ABC, has now lifted undisputed champion Alicia Baumgardner's suspension, unbeknownst to most. While Alicia was not suspended by the Michigan Unarmed Combat Commission that licensed her to fight,
She was suspended by the ABC.
they oversee the WBA, the WBC, the WBO, and the IBF, the alphabets, as it were.
She should be returning to action sometime in late spring, early summer?
A Twitter account that goes by the name Tone Trump suggested that both she and Amanda Serrano should face each other. Curious reaction from Alicia. She's expressed an interest in having that fight. She's expressed an interest in facing Amanda Serrano. She seems to be hinting at a fight with someone via her social media, saying quite plainly, sign the contract. To who is she talking to? To who is that?
Who's that for?
Amanda Serrano. She was supposed to have her big homecoming fight a little over a week ago, but we know what happened. A chemical seeped into her eye, and she was rendered unable to fight.
Unfortunately.
Given fan participation on the island and ticket sales, that would have been a decent-sized fight for her, not because she was opposite the ring Nina Menke, but because it would have been a homecoming fight, a big homecoming fight for her. We also know that her team member, her teammate, Jake Paul, he's got that Mike Tyson exhibition match coming up. And whether you like it or not, that's going to be big. And what is a clever bit of strategy, it's going down, and it's going down on Netflix, but it's not going to be behind a paywall. It's not going to be a pay-per-view. It's going to be made available to all 260 million Netflix subscribers.
That's smart.
Now, I'm sure that the people at Netflix are paying both Mike Tyson, in his old age, and Jake Paul handsomely to have their exhibition on their platform. I'm sure that they're paying those guys and paying them well. But what makes this smart is not making it a pay-per-view, not hiding it behind a paywall allows that many more eyes to view it, that much more access to the consumer. What it is a return.
It's old school.
It's like doing a fight on a terrestrial network, a terrestrial channel like a Channel 2, a Channel 4, 5, 7, 9, 11.
I don't understand.
Terrestrial networks tend to be a lot bigger than cable networks, much, much bigger than premium cable networks.
Because you don't have to pay for them.
While Netflix, a subscription-based platform, isn't a terrestrial network, it still has the same size audience as a terrestrial network. 260 million homes.
260 million subscribers.
So even though it's not a terrestrial network in the traditional sense, it does have the same reach as one. And if you do an event like this on a platform like that, and you don't tuck it behind a pay-per-view, you don't hide it behind a paywall, that many more people are going to watch it.
That many more Netflix subscribers.
Because they're getting it as part of their subscription. The ones who aren't already subscribed might, just so that they can take this in, so that they can watch it. And subscribing to Netflix, even if it's just for a month, it's a lot cheaper than what your normal pay-per-view costs, what your average pay-per-view costs to see a boxing match. A Netflix subscription,
That ranges between $6.99 to $22.99.
whereas your average price point for a pay-per-view is between, what, $75 and $80?
So you see the strategy.
The event being made available to all Netflix subscribers will draw that many more eyes to it, and for those who are not subscribed but perhaps want to see it,
It's inexpensive.
which may result in an uptick in subscriptions in that particular month. This could help bolster subscriptions even further for Netflix. How all of this pertains to Alicia Baumgardner, Amanda Serrano, is who's going to be on that undercard.
We know that Amanda's fought on Jake Paul's undercards before.
She fights under the Most Valuable Promotions banner. A fight with Alicia could be a fight that happens under that banner. I don't think Matchroom would stop her. I don't think Matchroom would get in the way of that fight if Alicia were fortunate enough to get a shot at Amanda.
They didn't stop her from crossing the street for Michaela Mayer.
I don't think they would stop her from crossing the street for Amanda Serrano, who, in this situation, is the A-side fighter, is the bigger name.
Well, where would they do it? At what weight? 126? 130?
Well, at either weight, it would be for a lot of belts, you know? If it were at 130, it would be for Undisputed. If it were at 126, it would be for 3 of the 4 major titles and the Ring Magazine belt, as well as lineal status. So,
Featherweight, super featherweight, either one works.
now the reason I think that the fight is viable is because you're going to need something big for that undercard, something good for the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul exhibition match.
Yeah.
One way or another, I think Amanda Serrano gets a spot on that undercard. One way or another, with Alicia or with somebody else. The reason I think the wheels are in motion behind the scenes for that fight is because Alicia's suspension has been lifted. She seems to be hinting at a fight very soon.
That could be this fight.
Maybe. Alicia Baumgardner recently grabbed everybody's attention due to a back and forth between herself and Adrian Broner, which we talked about here on the channel. Adrian Broner and the audience that consumes his antics, that takes him in, wants the sport of boxing to devolve to their degenerate and trashy behavior.
This ain't World Star. This ain't the Shade Room.
This ain't Vlad TV is some fucking gossip column. This is the sport of boxing.
Who the fuck cares who Alicia's sexual partners were? That's none of our business.
Glad to see that there may be some fight news imminent.
Could be big news.
Whether it's news of an Amanda Serrano fight or a fight with somebody else, that is what Alicia needs to do. She needs to get back in the ring, get back to business, get back to boxing. Men's junior middleweight news. We know a new WBA champion was crowned yesterday. WBA in the junior middleweight division. We also know that Tszyu, a student of the game and boxing royalty in his own right, the son of Kostya Tszyu.
But he's no junior.
He's his own man. He was taking in yesterday's contest with Israel Madrimov versus Magomed Kurbanov. He said, new Triple G, slow down, Eddie Hearn. Good win, Israel Madrimov. Unification in the future. He's not ducking the smoke or shying away from that challenge.
Does it happen?
Tszyu's connected to the PBC. Tszyu may see himself fighting the winner of Fundora versus Bohachuk. I could see that happening now that widespread rumors suggest Terrence Crawford ain't going to be fighting Tim. He may be moving up to 160. He may be facing Chris Eubank Jr., which is a separate matter we'll discuss in another video.
I think Terrence would have knocked Tim out, and I liked him. But in that fight, I think Terrence would have won.
But if Terrence is going to be moving up to 160 and facing Chris Eubank Jr. instead, he's not fighting Tim. Tim is free to unify. Tim is free to pursue the other belts at this weight. One among them is the WBC.
The winner of Fundora versus Bohachuk on the undercard of his fight with Keith Thurman.
The winner of Murtazaliev versus Kolkay for the IBF.
That's official.
Or the newly crowned WBA champion on the matchroom side of things, Israel Madrimov. And I happen to think Israel, that's a tougher assignment. A much tougher assignment than any of those other guys.
Unofficially, I think that Tszyu and Israel Madrimov are the number 1 and number 2 guys at this weight. That's unofficially.
Because I know it's early. Because I know there are 2 other champions set to be crowned at this weight. But just looking at them, I feel like Tim and Israel are the 2 best guys at this weight right now. He's on the PBC side of things, so as stated, if he beats Keith Thurman, and I think he's going to, he could always segue into a fight with the winner of Fundora versus Bohachuk. He could always see about fighting the winner of Kolkay versus Murtazaliev.
And depending on who he lands on,
Which belt?
Israel can go after the other guy, the other belt, as it were. That if Tim shoots for the WBC, Israel can then shoot for the IBF or vice versa.
And then let the winners face each other in what would be the next junior middleweight undisputed title fight. It seems like ancient history that Jermel Charlo once reigned supreme as this division's undisputed champion, but his stock has dropped dramatically since then, and I don't think he's going to drop back down to 154. He already spent a lot of time there. If and when he comes back, it'll likely be at 160.
He's done at junior middle.
The evidence of that is giving up all of his alphabet titles, giving up all of his belts. The landscape is changing, and new champions are emerging quickly.
I like it.
The talent pool runs deep at 154. This is a much deeper and hotter division than 147. 147, traditionally one of the glamour weights. They don't have as much going on as 154 right now. At 154, you've got Tszyu, Israel Madrimov, Sebastian Fundora, Sergey Bohachuk, unbeaten up-and-comers like Xander Zayas, unbeaten up-and-comers like Virgil Ortiz.
Virgil?
I meant Virgil.
It's deep.
Though because Tszyu mentioned Israel by name, because he mentioned him by name in reference to a unification match, what would that fight look like? I know it's early and we're not on the eve of that fight, but if we were, how would it play out? And I have to say that as high as I am on Tszyu, that's a very tough assignment. That's a very tough fight for him.
Tszyu's best punches are straight punches from the outside coming in, and he's a prolific puncher, a busy puncher. He throws a lot of punches.
Both him and Israel are mid-range to inside fighters, but you will notice that Israel is a lot more herky-jerky, a lot more fidgety, and lighter on his feet. He moves around more than Tszyu, and it's not the kind of movement you get from a Tony Harrison, a Terrell Gausha.
He's not exiting the pocket, staying on the perimeter of the ring, back on the ropes, taking a tour of the turnbuckles. That's not the kind of movement you get from Israel Madrimov. He stays with you.
Unlike those aforementioned fighters, he stays with you. He stays within striking distance, but he's moving the whole time he does it. Throwing jabs to the head, jabs to the chest, the solar plexus.
He's busy too.
Tricky too. It may seem like he's right in front of you because he's in the pocket, he's within striking distance, though he's moving the whole time, so he doesn't give you a clear target. Tszyu's best bet to land meaty punches, meaningful punches, is to target his body.
The head's a small target. He can roll with the head punches, slip the head punches, but the body?
It's a bigger target and harder to move out the way.
Israel jabs to the chest?
Tim should jab to the chest. Tim should jab at the solar plexus. Tim should go to the body.
Take his legs away. Slow him down.
Tim is strong. So is Israel Madrimov, but Tim has more rounds in the bank, more pro experience.
And he's already a bit of a body puncher.
One of his keys to success, if and when he does face Israel, is he's got to go to his body. Though even with that, that's not going to be an easy fight.
Talking about the fight and the knockout, credit to Francis Ngannou and his team. I know they was talking a lot, and I think if that would have been me on the receiving end of that knockout, I really think they would have used it as major momentum, torn my name down, ripped me apart, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say respect. He's already shocked the world. UFC heavyweight champion, phenomenal story, transition from MMA to boxing. I'm going to only speak good of the man as well, yeah? Even though we talk about the knockout and the performance, let's not let that be the defining moment of Francis Ngannou.
The fact of the matter is that had it been Francis Ngannou that scored a highlight reel knockout yesterday, he wouldn't show as much grace and as much class as Anthony is extending to him, that kind of sportsmanship to where he's not going to kick the guy when he's down in spite of what he said ahead of the fight, because ahead of the fight, Francis Ngannou said he heard that AJ was chinny, that he's going to knock him out.
That's what he said.
MMA fans as well, a good number of them. I saw a sample size poll of approximately 34,000 people, that most of which thought Ngannou would win the fight. Ngannou would knock out Anthony Joshua. I even saw some people from the world of boxing. Up-and-comer Amy Timlin.
She picked Ngannou by way of knockout. Manager and trainer Rick Ramos, he picked Ngannou by way of knockout.
So before all the Monday morning quarterbacks get here talking about how they knew the whole time Anthony was going to stop him and he only did what he was supposed to do, need I remind you that a good number of people thought AJ is chinny and he's mentally weak, and Francis Ngannou, look what he did to Tyson Fury, he's going to do worse to Anthony. There were those people.
They've probably gone into hiding.
But there were those people. What people say ahead of a fight can change dramatically overnight to what they say after a fight. Anthony Joshua deserves full credit for going in there and knocking out this guy. Full credit.
I don't want to hear it.
On training camp. I know Ngannou's built different, which is another reason why he's just going to beat Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua's not even known for hitting that hard, man.
He's not?
He's not. Oh! Oh! Drops Ngannou again. Damn, we got to see a replay on that. Holy crap. Francis is getting fucked up. He's good, though. Don't stop the fight prematurely. Damn, Francis is just not able to deal with the speed. How... Oh! Oh! Oh my goodness! Francis Ngannou was out cold! Whoa! I can't believe it! Holy crap, I've never seen that dude get dropped. He's out cold on the canvas. Anthony Joshua just KO'd Francis the Predator Ngannou stiff. Holy shit. Pillow hands Joshua. My bad, brother. Damn, dude. I thought Francis's chin was gonna... Holy crap, the speed. This is what was supposed to happen.
But it's not what you said would happen. And there are a lot of people like this, some in the world of boxing, some outside of it, in the world of mixed martial arts and all of their overzealous fans. The zealotry of the MMA community is what makes these kinds of fights possible, to where boxing fans already know this guy don't belong in the same ring with Anthony Joshua, but they are insistent that because their sport is supposed to be the superior sport,
It's supposed to be.
Francis is gonna do this, and Francis is gonna do that. In truth, I can't blame some of them based on what we saw late last year in October when that same Francis Ngannou went the distance with Tyson Fury. I get it. I understand.
But I'm the guy that told you, AJ's gonna knock him out. He's gonna make it look easy, and I'm the guy that's been telling you, Fury's overrated. He's not what you think he is.
It's the whole my dad is better than your dad routine. It's the whole my dad is better than your dad pissing contest that MMA fans regularly like to have with boxing fans, because boxing fans don't spend much time worrying about mixed martial arts and what's supposed to be better.
We don't.
But they do, which is a big part of why the Maymac fight was such a big success. Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather.
The intrigue, as it were, is mostly from the mixed martial arts community, not the boxing community, and the same applies here.
Mixed martial arts being a somewhat fledgling sport, a new sport, at least compared to boxing, they want to prove themselves, and what they want to do is overtake the sport of boxing as the more dominant combat sport, the more prominent combat sport. But don't you notice that Francis Ngannou didn't start making real money until he crossed over into boxing, because boxing is the granddaddy of all combat sports, not mixed martial arts.
Sorry.
That guy's been in an octagon for years, taking knees and kicks and elbows and wrestling, but he ain't ever made a payday like the one he started making in the sport of boxing, because boxing is the bigger sport.
Comprendo, friendo.
And had he won, he wouldn't be anywhere near as graceful, as sportsmanlike as Anthony Joshua's being. No, had he won, we'd never hear the end of it. How mixed martial arts is better than boxing in a street fight.
I've seen more street fights end from a good, well-placed right cross across the jaw than any of that shit you see in the octagon.
Spare me about the street fighting scenario. For God's sake, aren't you guys tired of saying that? Maybe this latest knockout will cause those MMA guys to simmer down, stay in your lane, do what you do.
Because you don't do this. This ain't for you.
And be grateful that Anthony's not rubbing it in, because he could.
Could be obnoxious.
Be glad he's being a gentleman about it.